There you have it. The Football Pod theme tune is back, and the boys are back. Paddy Andrews is here, he's smiling away, and Andy Moran. How are you doing?
All's good my side. We've a happily married man below me here on the screen, so it's all's good. A lot has changed, Tommy. A lot has changed.
A lot has changed, but you know what? The season is back underway, and I think Paddy, myself, and yourself are saying we better get straight into it here. We better get straight into our season preview for 2022. The jackpot was won in Mayo this week. Oisin Mullin is staying. He's not going to the AFL. So Andy Moran, are Mayo going to finally win the All-Ireland this year?
Tommy, you can't be asking me stuff like that.
It's early in the year for that.
What do you mean? You're Andy Moran from the Football Pod.
We're in the same competition. I'm.
At least we're playing them in the first and the second.
Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed. No, but I seen a great thing online today. They go, the genie is granted 2 wishes. Some folk has won 19 million. Oisin Mullin is staying, and it's what's the third wish?
He's saving the third one. He's saving the third one for September or July.
But it was well.
Lads,
And
Oisin Mullin has got a cut. Someone's after winning that 19 million. Going, Oisin, there's nothing for you over. There's nothing for you down in Oz. Here's a couple of grand to keep you here, like.
Yeah, we were like just you replayed the clip today online actually. But it's massive, lads. In terms of, like, you look at we mentioned him. You mentioned, look at Kieran Kilkenny. If he went, if Clifford went, if these guys went, they're generational players, and for him to stay, it's a huge plus to Mayo.
We're gonna get back to Oisin Mullin in a little bit, but let's not leave the listeners any longer. Andy, you've an announcement to break to Paddy and to make to the listeners, I suppose.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it till I hear it from the horse's mouth, like.
Yeah, so the Paddy and Andy show is now turning into the Paddy and Jenny show, isn't it? It's Jenny's taking over, but obviously this is our last pod. The bromance is over.
I don't believe it.
Tommy,
don't say it's over.
Tommy being the third wheel. Yeah, it's gone. But listen,
if you go, can we somehow, Tommy? Surely you've built something with all the contract changes you've made. Jenny has to stay on.
I'm working on it.
We'd be happy enough, like.
Yeah,
we'll deal with Andy's loss.
Do you know them contracts, Paddy, that used to be out years ago, where the captain of the club used to make it say, "I have to be the highest paid person." So, like, you were definitely negotiating in the background out of this. So, yeah, you were on to Nathan.
I want Andy's cut.
Whoever's coming in here, I get Moran's cut. Yeah,
I'm going to be paying off that wedding for the next 5 years.
Oh my God!
I needed something.
But you know, it's a glamorous wedding when, like, my wife Jenny is getting texts from her. Did you see Paddy Andrews' wedding? It's unreal. So those big hitters.
Cancelled it about 4 times, so we had enough time planning the bloody.
What a show! Look great, Paddy. Well done.
So come here. You're out the door, Andy. So I'm after spending, as well as the wedding, about $5,000 on 1,000 Paddy and Andy Football Pod T-shirts. So Jesus Christ, it's like Garth Brooks all over again. Tommy, who's a famous Andy we can get in?
I know. I think we're gonna start our search for the next best Andy around the country. We're gonna
Andy Farrell. 6 Nations isn't on for a month. So you guys, he has time in his hands.
He's a good shout, yeah.
You got to do me a favor, though. It can't be a defender.
Jesus.
You can't ruin this. Like, you claim to be a full forward, Tommy. Joe, Paddy was one of the best in the business. You got to go with a bit of glamour, do you?
The furthest back we go is midfield.
I don't even know if we can go that far back, lads.
If
it'll expose us.
It'll be the Tommy and defender show.
It would only expose the pod. No, I think it's a safe space for forwards here on the Football Pod. But it's I'm quite emotional now, Andy. I've probably known longer than anyone that it just wasn't going to happen. It is impossible. Like, you're the intercounty manager for Leitrim. Your time is going to be taken up between that and the business and Jenny and the kids. So look at the Football Pod. We're going to miss you. You're always going to be a part of the Football Pod of Paddy and Andy. You're always welcome back. So and I'm delighted that you're back for a final 30th episode. I didn't think we'd get this chance.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm delighted, and we'll do it. I'll be a guest at the end. I'll be a guest at the end. No, but it was brilliant, and like I suppose the reasons behind it, and like people just kind of hear the show and see what's kind of happening. But Paddy will tell you there that when you're analysing 8 Division or 7 Division 1 games or 6 Division 1 games a week, and then you're trying to do that with Division 2 and give it the respect that it's going. If you're a football manager or coach or anything like that along the way as well, it'd be just too much. You need to be analysing your own team, see where they're going, the opposition. So it was it came to the point where it was just going to be a tiny bit too much. But it wasn't easy. I'll tell you, my good wife wanted me to keep it on, if I'm being honest. But it just was the automatic decision. And what a time! 30 episodes, lads. We did well.
Yeah, we had a good run of it.
I tell it from my side, Andy, as well. And I know I said this to you a couple of weeks back. When it was announced, and I know how passionate you were to get into coaching, obviously, and when it was announced you were taking on Leitrim, I just assumed, knowing from the time and effort that goes into that to at any level, like we were fortunate, obviously playing in Division 1 teams and competing to win All Irelands with Dublin and Mayo, but it's the same across the board. We spoke about it so many times last year. Intercounty football, the sacrifices that need to be made at all levels of the game, and for you going in as a coach. And for the Leitrim players, that's going to take up nearly all your time, Jenny, and the business as well. So I kind of assumed that was the end of the road, but it was amazing the amount of people who had said it to me in terms of when is the pod coming back? Is Andy coming back? And I just think to all the listeners, and as we finished up last year, Tommy, you put something out absolutely incredible. We'd over 500,000.
Yeah, 6 months
throughout the course of the year, and us 2 Egypts or 3 Egypts starting off last January. Me and Andy had no clue what we were doing. Tommy,
it was May. It was only May.
May.
We got going in May. We hadn't even spoken as a trio in May.
So
there
for
you
us
go.
to kick off, and we were dipping our toe in, and we weren't sure how it was going to go, and it was brilliant. We had such great crack, and managed to drag it out for the rest of the year in what was a really unique season in the GAA as well. So we're good. I'm good at Andy, and I know we great crack. We'll miss you, obviously. Wish you all the best with Leitrim. It's exciting, I think, for everyone across the GAA to get a new season started, a full season, proper National League championship down the road. And wishing you all the best, obviously, in your first intercounty job as well. And to all the listeners, I'm sure they'll be absolutely gutted, but we'll have to pull something out of the bag, Tommy.
Yes, Paddy.
It's late in the transfer window.
You know,
left us in the lurch here, but
it is the transfer window, though. It's
the show must go on, as they say. Jim White is in. Jim White is in.
We can't say, or we don't know who it is, but I guarantee you next week we will have Andy's and replace
a younger model. Are we going for a younger model?
Maybe.
It's hard to get anyone older than me. Like, if you want current and me, you have to go younger, don't you? You have to go younger.
What county? Who? Like, where are we? Where are we going shopping, Tommy? What's in the?
I don't know. Look, we might go on a tour around the country and try and figure out where we can go next. But I don't know. Is there anyone in Meath? Or you're probably not going to let me get another Meath man on, are you?
Meath.
You cover Meath as much as anyone, Tommy. We're not going there.
Well, I've got Meath boxed off. Can't go to it for a dub, so all the dubs are locked away. Might have to look a little further south or a little more over to the west again. Do you know, we got a lot of love from Mayo this year. Maybe we got to share that around to Roscommon, maybe, or go. We'll see. We'll see what happens. No more to be said about that.
Tommy, keep me in the loop.
I'll keep you in the loop, Paddy. Don't you worry. But Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure. And some of my favorite bits from the pod over the few months. I loved hearing you talking about your favorite scores, wearing the socks up, the favorite, some of your favorite heroes growing up, and you know, there was one of the first few weeks we were talking about Kieran MacDonald and the magical days of 2006 and the Mayo dressing room back then. It was just brilliant being able to sit between the two of you and listen to the stories as the careers went on. And yeah, it's funny when you think back, that first episode, we were sitting here and one of the first topics we actually did on the pod, and I don't know if we actually realized it since, was Tyrone. How can you change the culture of a team after the Heart rain? So I don't know if that's us predicting the future very early on, but
what do we say?
I tipped Donegal
I haven't listened
all the way
back
up until Tyrone actually beat them, so I can't claim credit. Andy, I think, did you back them? You did. Didn't you?
I backed them to win Ulster. I didn't back them after that, but it was no, I do some great times. Like I remember the one that stood out, and when Kevin McMenamin retired, I think I texted you, Tommy, at the time, but in Paddy's yarn about, not the yarn, the story about the way Croke Park was rocking when he scored that goal. I remember sitting here, the exact position, hair standing in the back of my head. Like, why is it standing in the back of my head after Dublin winning about 25 All-Irelands in a row? But it was just...
That was one of our early ones, though.
But it was just an amazing story. And I think them stories, probably coupled us well with a team that we really heard at. I'm not saying you gave much away anyway, Paddy, but just little bits of what a successful team looked like where it went from there. And then I could come in with I suppose the other side of it, where we lost, but we did a lot of the similar stuff. But how he got over the line, I think it was just amazing, and the way it took off was brilliant.
It was funny, lads. You mentioned that. Obviously, with COVID and things like that, and obviously now from Dublin's perspective, since Kevin Mack has retired and Philly McMahon has retired as well, we all kind of caught up at my wedding, which we had a big crowd at. It was the first time Clucko was there as well. He came out of hibernation for
there's an amazing photo.
For one night only, yeah, and it was the first time in a long time, due to everything, the retirement and COVID and stuff, that we'd all kind of been back together for a few pints, and it was funny. We were just talking about stories like that, not just specifically Kevin's goal, and just everything, and like we touched on it a good bit, Andy, in the past, stuff that maybe supporters wouldn't have seen. Like everyone knows about the big games and the matches in Croke Park, but some of the trips we went on and kind of the laugh you had and the bonds you had over 10, 12 years playing together. So it was funny, we were able to do that over Christmas time as well. And that's really the special part of what the GAA is all about, really. And I think our own conversations last year, and I think from speaking with listeners of the pod, they found that really insightful. And that was one of the best parts, as much as analysing the games that were happening at the weekend. Just little insights from our own stories as well, and it was great to listen, I suppose, from the Mayo perspective, from our side as well, because, like I said, when we were on the pitch, we weren't exactly mixing and having these conversations. So
I was laughing there when you were talking the stories. The Costello penalty story, lads.
Yes.
Jeez, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
He was in top form at the wedding as well. The cheeky little.
That photo from the wedding, that must have just been one of those, like, congratulations on the wedding. It looked like it was an incredible thing. I rang you afterwards, the video with the fireworks, and I rang you about it and asked you, what were you thinking there looking up at them? I won't repeat the answer you gave me, but yeah, what an unbelievable. You had a couple of days up in Monaghan as well, but must be one of those moments when you have everyone together. It must have been a bit surreal having everyone together for football.
Like I wouldn't have seen, a lot of lads mightn't have even seen Jim in quite a while since he'd finished up as well. So it was just great to kind of catch up with everyone, and we're fortunate, I suppose. And Andy, you'll know, even for your book launch, a lot of your ex-teammates and stuff were there. That's the beauty that we have to look forward to, that hopefully over the next kind of 5, 10, 15 years, you'll be able to catch up with these guys at different things. And that's what, like I say, that's what it was all about, more so than, we were fortunate. We got a couple of medals, the guys didn't, but I'm sure that the memories and the friendships and stuff like that you'll have going forward. So that was great. It was an eye opener for me. It was the first time I caught up with everyone really since I'd retired as well. So look, it was great. Yeah, it was a good couple of days as well. We enjoyed it.
Class. I was funny. The Netflix producers of Drive to Survive got accused of not maybe affecting the outcome of the final race of the season. And I was just thinking, obviously they're getting involved in golf now, and apparently they're making a tennis documentary. But if they wanted to make a GA documentary, they would have scripted Mayo beating Dublin last year. Because I'm sorry, Paddy, I was sitting beside you for it, but it was perfect for the pod. It was perfect for the pod, even just that semi-final. So look at lads, it was a brilliant summer. So thanks very much, Andy, for all you gave us as a pundit and a teammate on the football pod over the last year. So thanks from all the podcast listeners. And now, a little break. We're going to take a little break in the pod, and we're going to be back with our special guest, Andy Moran, the Leitrim manager. You're welcome back to the football pod with Paddy Andrews and the Leitrim manager, Andy Moran, who is a guest right now on the football pod. Andy, how have the first
changed there?
I'm gone all serious. My legs are crossed and stuff like this. I'm sitting back. I'm more relaxed.
He's changed. I thought he was going to change into a suit there.
Yeah.
This is the part of the pod where you're supposed to hit subscribe, lads, and you're supposed to share it or like it or whatever you're doing, wherever you're listening to it. So thanks very much for tuning in. We're going to chat to Andy a little bit now about his first couple of weeks in the job. Andy, how have you settled in? Has it been manic and busy as one can imagine?
Yeah, it's been all of the above, but it's been really good. And not to be too political and righteous with my answer, but I think I said a couple of weeks ago that Leitrim is a mad spot in terms of football is the sport. Like there's a bit of hurling, but outside that, the Sligo Leitrim playing the soccer together, few boys going to play for Rovers, but outside a small few areas, Gaelic football is the sport, it's the religion down there, and that's the way it's been. It's mad. It's people love it. They love talking about it. It's all infectious, which is brilliant. And I'm coming from a county that's kind of like that anyway, so it really is enjoyable. The boys have absolutely lit up the training fields in terms of wanting to be there, putting in great effort, doing stuff that they probably haven't done in the past, and it's been great.
What's the energy like being part of a group again like that? I know you're obviously involved at club level and you stayed at Balladreen and you were still playing, but you never stepped away from that. You stepped away from the intercounty game there for a year or so. What's it like being back in? Is it a different dynamic?
It's not a different dynamic than the Mayo dressing room, but it would be a small bit different than a club dressing room, because county football, whichever county you go into, you're dealing with the elite players within that county. All the guys, you make the decision that you want to be there. Like some of the guys I ranked to come in said, no, it's not for me. And then the rest of the guys all want to be there, and they make the decision to be there. Where at club level, it's a club. It's more of a inclusion more so than anything, and it does create a tiny bit of a different sort of stimulus within the dressing room. And the guys, they're hungry. They want to do well. They want to get the best out of themselves, and sure, that's where you want to be. It's as a player, manager, coach, whatever you are, they're the situations you want to be in.
Paddy, I'm going to let you jump in here in a second, but when a new manager comes in, you often see it in the Premier League, there's the bounce, right? In football or soccer, that happens. Yeah. That often happens. Yeah, that often happens very quickly. There's a game 2 days later, 3 days later. You're building up to your league opener, and that's going to be at the end of this month. So that's probably 10 weeks more, nearly 3 months since you took over. So how do you keep that energy ticking over? I'm sure there's the trials early on, you get your squad together. But for the last couple of weeks and the next couple of weeks, you had the game of the AirDome, obviously. That was obviously a great occasion. Obviously, you lost, but you seem to get a good tune out of your team that night in some ways.
Yeah, and you get challenge matches then along the way. Like we would have been very kind of unfortunate in Connacht. We went with the knockout FBD format, where it'd have been better, I think, for all teams if you had 2-3 matches and then a round robin, then a final, just for preparation. You don't have to go looking for it. It's official.
On that, Andy, just I know we're chatting kind of up. How was that? Were the counties consulted about that? Because you're looking at the O'Byrne Cup, the McKenna Cup, the McGrath Cup. January, managers and players, everyone just wants games, particularly for new coaches coming in. Let's get players game time. You see, even looking from my Dublin hat on, it's the first time in years that Dublin are putting out some of their big players in the O'Byrne Cup, because everyone just wants matches at this time of year. So it's just an odd one.
Look at what Jack O'Connor's doing. A full suite of cards against Limerick that first night.
All 5 counties in Connacht would have preferred to play 2 or 3 times. It's an odd decision from the Connacht Council, isn't it?
Yeah, our first year in, to be honest, Paddy, you have so much things to do, you have so much things to organise. You're trying to get your backroom team together, you're trying to get them moving and kind of working together and getting them all fitted in, getting all the players on the field, making sure everyone is doing their bits and pieces. I never really thought about actually the game and not having multiple games. So as soon as you lose that game against Sligo, you're thinking, we need to start looking here. So all of a sudden I've got friendly with a whole lot of managers around the place, right? Guys that, like, when you were playing, you were probably avoided, and some of them.
You're held and Joycey there looking for a
challenge. Yeah. He didn't let me have one though. He didn't let me have one, but
get the knife in early.
Yeah, obviously I'd be friendly with Cian O'Neill, but we tried, but it just didn't suit. See, all these bigger counties then, on top of it, you go in and try to play a bigger county, and they have so many guys playing Sigerson. Yeah, it doesn't really suit what they're trying to do either. And then you have the COVID issue and all that. So it's just a bit difficult, but we've been lucky enough over the last couple of weeks. We've got a few challenges in around the place. And Tommy, to answer your question, how do you build the momentum? Is show some improvement to it, like the formation, the tactics, the game plan you're trying to play to, and then guys can see that kind of working or coming into play, or seeing where it could benefit, or it might go wrong on the day you play against Sligo and then you improve it, little things like that. I think all kind of add to the add to the situation. It helps build momentum towards your first game. Now, our first game.
Tricky one.
I don't know if Paddy's aware of this, but our first 2 games are the Munster champions in the second game from 18 months ago, and our first game is the Ulster champions from 18.
I did see that.
Yeah. So no, listen. People go to me, oh, that's a horrible start, but I think it's probably a better start because all the pressure is on them 2 guys in terms of playing us. We didn't win a game last year, and then you kind of just go in and you get them out of the way, and it's done, and hopefully pick up a result or 2 along the way.
Yeah, best of luck in that. Cavan obviously took down the All-Ireland champions. Now, I wanted to ask Paddy this question. I'm not going to ask Andy it. What's it like after coming back from a couple of weeks in the sun, like one of the Dublin team holidays after winning the All-Ireland and being thrown into an O'Byrne Cup game? Or actually, you were never thrown in there, were you? The Tyrone lads were thrown into a McKenna Cup game.
We did. In the early part of Jim's reign, we did play the O'Byrne Cup. I think we won in 13 and we played it in 14 and in 15 and 16. And then after, we played Longford in the 16 O'Byrne Cup semi-final. And we actually put out a decent team. We were back from Jamaica, I think. And Longford hammered us in Pearse Park. And we had like 7 or 8 of the team playing from the All-Ireland final the previous year. And I remember coming back on the bus after losing to Longford. And Jim wasn't happy. And he brought us up 1 by 1. So James McCarthy, myself, Kieran Kilkenny, and himself and Declan Darcy, Jason Sherlock, they were showing us clips from the game. And we were absolutely catastrophic. My arse was hanging out in my shorts, a little belly on me. And just showing us dropping balls and being beaten out the balls, kicking wides. For about 3 or 4 minutes, you're sitting beside me going, you're a sham. You're a disgrace. What were you doing over Christmas? And we were in bloody Jamaica. We were sitting at the pool the week before drinking cocktails with the coaches. So that was the last, I think, of World Cup. We didn't play it again any year after. So Longford finished us for a couple of years. But it's funny to see now, Tyrone, obviously, first All-Ireland for all those guys. I think they were in the States from Miami.
Yeah, Florida, I think, looking at the Instagram.
And they came back and they were pretty well beaten, obviously. But
yeah, 5 or 6, I think, who started the All-Ireland final started, but Cavan would have been well up for that. Like Cavan.
And it's an interesting one, right? Cavan obviously had a bad season last year. We touched on the pod. They were the reigning Ulster champions and they did not get going. So we could see they've had a long, hard look at themselves, and that was a kind of a statement when they're going to be looking to get out of Division 4. Andy's, obviously, that's the challenge for not just Leitrim, but for all the counties there, that the Cavan are probably not a Division 4 team, but that's the opportunity for a lot of those teams. And I'd say, Andy, for you guys getting them the first game, I think I agree with you. I think it's a great time to get a county like that. But for Tyrone, it's interesting. I do remember in later years, we didn't play our O'Byrne Cup, but we came back in our first National League games. We played Kildare 1 year, we played Cork another year in Crow Park, Donegal another time. And we were back in Ireland about 3 or 4 days. We did 1 training session on the Thursday night. We went out and we won all of those games. So that was actually, in a way, a big confidence booster for us. That I remember, particularly Kildare and Cork both years, they had been training quite a bit, and we literally came back off, a couple of months being on the piss, and managed to beat them in Crow Park in the opening league game. And it was kind of like, okay, we felt that would be a blow to those teams' confidence, knowing that we'd come back. And it was nearly like an early win for us in the season. We didn't speak about it much, but as a group, but the players in the dressing room were going, geez, we're literally back. Lads, we're still sunburned playing in Crow Park. Lads are peeling on the jerseys. Yeah. And we go out and we win our first game in Division 1. It's just, we touched on it so many times last year. Momentum, even for the bigger teams. That was like a boost.
On the arm, yeah.
We were the All-Ireland champions. So it was interesting to see Tyrone be so well beaten. That's a big challenge for those guys, because on the flip side, I remember Dublin won their first All-Ireland, the same scenario as Tyrone were now back in 2011. And the 2012 season, I was brought back onto the panel after my sabbatical with Pat Gilroy. And that was a bad season for Dublin. Right from the very beginning of the season, they struggled through the National League. I remember playing Mayo and Castlebar, and they absolutely hopped off us by about 10 or 12 points. We had a couple of lads sent off. was a bad National League. We struggled, barely won the Leinster Championship. I think Wexford really beat us in the Championship. And then we ultimately lost to Mayo in the All-Ireland semi-final. But it was that season, there was just a hangover from winning the All-Ireland, and we never got rid of it. And that was a massive lesson when we won the All-Ireland then the following year in 2013, and Jim was the coach, that we wanted to avoid any sort of complacency. We wanted to avoid ever being questioned, going, those lads are partying still, or that their head's not in the right place. But that can happen for a team that wins their first.
Yeah.
That's it can go both ways. Like I said, no one on this pod suggested that Tyrone, I don't think anyone tipped Tyrone to win the All-Ireland last year. So it's a brilliant achievement, and the job Fergal Logan and Dewar did. And those players, they were the best team in the Championship last year. Consistently, we waxed lyrical about them. Some of their individual performances were top class. That's the big challenge. I'm interested to see how Tyrone perform in Division 1, because that's just a little warning sign that you don't like. I know they're only back from holidays, but to get a beating like that, it'll be interesting to see how they perform over the first couple of weeks of Division 1, because you don't want, that can linger. And like, if you're not used to it, which those guys aren't, you just want to put that to bed straight away and go out with a strong performance. I know they play Monaghan at home in their first league game. Get 2 points on the board, and just don't have those questions hanging around. That's
nothing easy when it comes to Monaghan, ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's interesting. I wanted to get when Calvin bet Tyrone, I just wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you that question. What was it like coming home after, tapering off, or the body relaxing? Is it like a shock to the system? A cold, hard January night.
You know what I'd say, right? The benefit we had with Dublin was the depth of our squad. And I touched on this in my own career. There were seasons, even though we won the All-Ireland, there were 7 or 8 players who had been subs that were only coming on, Kevin McMenamin, myself, Owen O'Gara, these guys. We mightn't have played as well the previous season. Even though the team had won the All-Ireland, there were 7 or 8 guys always come January. It was like, I need to hit the ground running here.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of depth in your squad. That even though maybe the main guys like a Fenton or Bernard Brogan or Paul Flynn at the time, they were guaranteed their place. There's always 2 or 3 guys. They might take a little bit of a break before they come back. But there was always more guys coming in that they were absolutely ravenous to play and perform, because that was their chance. And that's the interesting thing with Tyrone. We thought they had such a strong squad last year, and they got such impact off the bench that I'm looking, like, if I from the outside looking in, I'm going, well, Colin McShane had injuries and he was a sub and he was making massive impact last year, but he's got to be thinking to himself, I want to be the absolute main man this year. So I'm going to train, celebrate the All-Ireland, but I'm coming back in January and I'm going to be Tyrone's main man. And there should be 4 or 5 Tyrone guys in that bracket that, even though the team have won the All-Ireland, they need to put a personal statement there. So that was interesting to see. I would have thought guys are going, that McKenna Cup, I'm going to put my stall out and make sure that I'm one of the main men for the All-Ireland champions this year. So that's what I'm sure the coaches are looking for the first couple of weeks.
Richie Donnelly and Rory Brennan didn't even make the All-Ireland final 26th. And on the day, the match programme, I wouldn't forget it. There was I must take it out here now, but the final squad had 2 defenders on it, 26 split. They couldn't pick which defender they were bringing until the very last day. It was Monroe, and I can't remember the second fella. I better get his name.
You're telling me.
But it went right down to the wire, and I asked Colin McShane about it, and he said it was that night or so that the decision was made, or bringing one lad over another.
You're telling me those guys are sitting there going, okay, Tyrone have won the All-Ireland. It was a massive team effort. But there's an individual pride there going, well, I want to make a bigger contribution. So when we get back next January, I'm going to make sure that Fergal Logan, Brian Dewar, anytime Tyrone are taking the pitch, they can't pick a team without me. And that mentality, that's what the depth of a squad is doing. And that's why it was surprising to see. I know it's a McKenna Cup game. Look, it's not the end of the world, but I will be keeping an eye on that and seeing how they deal with that and what new players are putting their hand up to be part of that team. Yeah,
no, very much so. One player that caught my eye the night you played in the AirDome, Andy, if you don't mind me asking, was Emlyn Mulligan. He's a fella that, he was one of those players that we always knew as somebody who perhaps was always maybe a star on a smaller team. He always had a bit of a profile. Paddy, you obviously played him in Bridget's as well. He was always somebody that kind of captured the eye when he played. He was flashy, had everything. The man only played in Croke Park once. back in 20. It's incredible that Emlyn Mulligan only played in Croke Park once, and that was in his last year in the league final against Derry. But he wasn't playing last year anyways. Great that you managed to get someone like that back into the squad, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and he's I know Emlyn for years. See, we were in DIT together in Sligo.
There you go, another college buddy of Andy Moran.
Yeah. So we were no, he was one of the first calls in terms of. So I know his character. I know what he's like. He's a good guy, really good influence around the place. Looks after himself. You know, like one of these guys that you just want to have around the place, and he's been really good. He like really good to the younger fellas. In terms of showing them what it takes, first man out on the pitch, last man leaving, and I know that's an old, what would you call it? Myth, but it's the truth about some players, and he's out there first, and he's setting the standard and moving along, and he's been just really good since he was in. He's went through a bit, I suppose, the last 2 years not been involved. Played quite well that day against Derry, kicked a lovely score into the hill just after half time, but he's mature, he's how, you know, like there's certain levels on a team where fellas are just out of college, just out under 20, and then you have somebody who's married, has a kid, has bought a house, has done life stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's all different elements, and you can kind of learn from everything, and it's great for the young fellas to see guys like that around the place as well, and plus being able to give the time, work, be the first on the pitch, and put himself around the place as well. So really good influence around the place. Delighted to have him.
Great to hear it. Are you back at Bridges this year?
Me?
Yeah.
Reverse the question back to him.
I'm asking.
Reverse it back to you.
That's might be in the market for a full forward. Are you?
Yeah. I'm open for offers. Yeah.
Carl Jackson will give you a few quid.
You played.
Proper sponsor, maybe.
Emlyn played with you for a couple of years, didn't he?
He did, yeah. No, Muggsy came down for a couple of years when he I don't actually think he was based. He's a guard, obviously. I don't think he was based in Dublin at the time, so he was doing a bit of traveling and stuff like that. But he's just a sound fella, a talented player, and we were touching on it. Andy, you know this. I know we're probably biased towards forwards, but he's a guy who can kick scores, and if you're managing or organising a team, getting the defence sorted is probably the easier part. It's not easy, but it's maybe easier. You need to be organised, hard work, things like that. Getting guys that can kick scores is the challenging part. It's probably the hardest part of the game. Getting guys that can kick 3 or 4 or 5 points under pressure. That's going to be the difference between winning games and losing games. You've seen how tight they are, particularly this time of year. So he did a couple of years with us in Bridges. We were kind of in transition at the time. It wasn't our best period with Bridges. We were kind of coming to the end of our kind of, I suppose, golden age in a way, our best period. But just a great guy, testament that exactly what Andy said, a sound fella to have around the dressing room. And that experience is important. And just from listening to it, and we spoke about it last year, a new coach and someone with Andy's profile and the way Andy's just passionate about the game, it's infectious. That gets guys wanting to play and commit. We said the drawback and the big elephant in the room with intercounty football is that it can become a chore for teams and for players, and players don't enjoy it and they want to move on. And a new coach coming in, and we've seen it, like the success stories. If you look at last year's National League, Enda McGinley goes into Antrim, brilliant season, gets them promoted. Mickey Hart goes into Loud, fresh face, a big personality like Andy. That if you're a player in Loud, you're going, geez, Mickey Hart's coaches, they get promoted. What John Mahan does with Offaly, Rory Gallagher going into Derry.
No pressure, Andy.
But that's, I know, Andy, that's what you, the ideal scenario is that's what happens, that you get guys who want to play for the county, want to play for Leitrim. They've got an iconic coach coming in who's going to impart wisdom that they may not have had before. There's intrigue there. And the biggest thing, how many times did we say it? I'd say in nearly all 29 episodes about momentum, about maximizing your potential. There are going to be teams over the next 10 weeks in the National League that get that momentum. We don't know who they are now. You can look and say, I think they'll do well. I think there's pressure on those guys. But you start winning a couple of games, and Andy, Leitrim go out and they beat Cavan in their first game. Like, you're telling me the county will go mental.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. That's the beauty of the National League, and that's what can happen And that's what coaches, Keith Ricken's going to look for it in Cork. We said it in Kildare. I'm intrigued. Kildare in Division 1. And if you're a young lad in Kildare, and you've got those 4 guys, arguably your 4 most iconic players ever are coaching that team, what are you going to be like? You know, I'm expecting Kildare to come out all guns blazing. If I was from Kildare and Anthony Rainbow, Glenn Ryan, Dermot Early, Johnny Doyle there, I couldn't, you'd have to drag me off the pitch.
And let's take the road from Kildare down to Kerry. You know, you'd imagine there could be a bounce there too.
Yeah,
Andy.
but just on that, like what Paddy's saying there, and what's success? I think we 2 really intriguing guys on the pod as guests in Colin Collins and Rory Gallagher. So Rory was talking about his time with Fermanagh, and he was saying like it was amazing. I've listened to that pod about 5 times because it was amazing what he deemed success in Fermanagh and what the outside public deemed it. You know, and obviously somebody seen something that Rory Gallagher was doing in Fermanagh and said, "I want you in Derry," and they got him straight away. You know, but like. He was deeming success. We held on to here. We nearly got promoted. We got Quigley playing. You know, all that sort of stuff. There was little moments of success there.
He never wavered. He never wavered from that either.
Not once.
You know, all the criticism of Fermanagh never wavered. He knew what success was for his team.
Yeah, and then like you've Colin Collins, a way more understated character, but still that sheer kind of confidence in what is success for him. And getting to Division 2 was a major aim to be in the top 16 in the country. He mentioned the Milltown massacre. He mentioned all this sort of stuff, which, you know, he's seen the bad times and he's seen what was bad about there. And he measured his success by not getting out of Division 4 straight away, by, playing it, building, getting the fellas. All of a sudden, Gordon and Gary leave, Gordon Kelly and Gary Brennan leave, and all of a sudden he keeps them in Division 2. Like it's. So there's levels of success, and it's what the public deem it and what a manager deem it can be 2 very different things.
Yeah, 100%. Paddy, I think we'll leave the grilling of Andy Moran, Leitrim manager there. If you don't mind, Andy, that's all my questions on Leitrim. Yeah,
no, listen, that's fine, and I'm not sure Tommy will be down interviewing me too often in the next couple of months. I see you putting Donny on the spot there during you gave Donny an awful doing in that interview.
Did I?
At the weekend.
Poor old.
Just have to lose the Munster Club final. Jeez.
Yeah, it was actually the boys. They should have won it, shouldn't
it? It was incredible. They didn't show up in the first half, but that third quarter, I was talking to John Cairns, the Finbar's keeper, and he was saying, like, Donaghy's handprints were all over this full court basketball press. He couldn't pick a man out. Then the water break happens. Sean Quilter
killed him, missed him free. Yeah,
Quilter he was showing really well. It wasn't clicking for him, but he kept showing. I really like Sean Quilter. I've watched him a couple of times over the last couple of years. Missed the free. It was a tight enough free from the 13-meter line. Kick out off the back of the second half water break. Paul O'Keefe is roaring and shouting. And usually when you hear that in a huddle, you're thinking, don't know if he needs to do that. There might be something. Kick out from John Cairns. Ian Maguire fetches a brilliant ball. Ball down the line to Brian Hayes was so impressive, and he punched it over the bar. Michael Shields made a massive difference.
Massive.
Donaghy still nearly dragged it back into it. Like, he didn't get into the game. They didn't get Donaghy into the game, and he still created a goal with a minute to go, and just they left too much for themselves to do. Look, fair play to Kieran. I'll be coming after you, I'm sure, someday when you've lost.
But the Bears miss so many as well. Do you know when they're in the push? But it's just that I thought the stacks they had them coming into that water break, and it's amazing. I thought your interview with Donny was unreal, because I'll tell you why. He spotted the kick out after the water. Like, it's okay spotting that stuff when you're watching it on telly, Joe, and you can go, oh, that could be a big miss. Joe, Quilter missing the free. And then you see the catch from Maguire and go, that could be a big play. But when you're playing on the field, it's actually hard to spot them. And 10 minutes after the game, you have the microphone stuck in his face. And I think that's really, like, you're on from a coaching perspective, it's unbelievable to be able to spot that within the game that you're playing, and then come out and talk about it afterwards, you know. So I found that fascinating. It's amazing, these interviews after the game is kind of, since we started doing these pod, have kind of caught my attention a bit, you know.
He's an absolute gent. You mentioned the first man to leave. I was the first man into Semple after the TG Car cameras. The last, I tell you, I was the bloody last man to leave. I couldn't file my interviews. I got locked in twice at Semple. If any of the lads who work in Semple Stadium, they let me out twice. I was so frazzled at one stage. I was up in the press box. I was the only one there. One of the lads was walking along the pitch, and he roared up, "Are you driving a Volkswagen?" And I shouted down, "No, it's a Golf." And he goes, I need you to bloody move it. Get it out of the way.
We were out the night before or something. This doesn't
Oh,
sound
no. But yeah, I walked by Kieran and didn't really say anything, but he looked at me and he said, I have to go over to Tommy here. So fair play to him. He came over for a few minutes. But yeah, they were gutted. And Kieran Donaghy's out again this weekend in the National Cup final in the basketball. Incredible. 39 years old.
Some boy
he's
up.
just amazing. He was on the pod. We know what he's like. He's top class.
Just in terms of looking forward to the National League game, Armagh Dublin.
Yes.
On the first night in Crow Park. And that Armagh team in Crow Park, like we say, Croker suits Dublin. I think it would suit the way Armagh play as well. There's some brilliant games. Like Kildare's first game is against Jack O'Connor's Kerry back in Newbridge.
Hey, second game. Dublin Kerry might be interesting.
Dublin Kerry in the second game.
Andy Moran, you're not going to see a Division 1 game of football for about 4 or 5 months.
Andy has his hands full.
No, but I'm interested. Is there any new dubs coming?
I'm going to go to the O'Byrne Cup final this weekend in Parnell. So Kildare are playing Laois tomorrow. I'm expecting Kildare to win. I hope Kildare win because I think that would be a great game on Saturday. Kildare against Dublin. I said this last year. I think the defeat for Dublin at the time is obviously a disaster, but it's like a reset for everyone involved. Like say Philly and Kevin Mack have stepped away. Rory O'Carroll, these guys are not involved. The team had to, just a natural evolution, even though as successful as Dublin had been, the team needed to refresh. Desi's come out. Stephen's obviously not going back. Jack McCaffrey, Paul Mannion, these guys. That's all of these things were nearly question marks are hanging over Dublin. And for supporters, you're kind of hoping, geez, I hope the guys come back. Even me as an ex-player going, geez, I'd love to see those guys back in the mix, but it's just probably not going to happen. Now it's like a clean slate. I think it's a clean slate for Desi and the management team and for all the players, just a reset. They've had a couple of months away. They're hurt. I feel like Dublin hadn't lost the championship match in 7 bloody years. So it's a unique feeling for all of them. And you're seeing the team sheets in the O'Byrne Cup games and you're seeing 4 or 5 of the main guys playing. You're seeing them playing well. There's clearly hunger there, whereas, Tommy, we kind of laugh about it. Normally in January, we're in the bloody Caribbean, drinking cocktails. So it's a different scenario for them. I'm intrigued to see how they adapt in the first couple of leagues. Like you say, they've got Armagh who are going to come. You know what Armagh are going to bring. They're going to run from absolutely everywhere, all over the pitch. Do they have the athleticism at this stage of the season to deal with that? Then in their second game, they're going to Kerry. They're going out to Tralee. Jacko, Kerry were obviously disappointed. Every bit as disappointed as Dublin were at how their season finished out last year as well. Jacko's come in, new coach. What new players are there? There's no doubt about it. There's going to be 3, 4, 5 new names on the Dublin team sheet that haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Just purely out of just by retirements and guys moving on. So it's up to guys to put their hand up. They're going to get the opportunity, and what an opportunity to get.
Give us one that excites you.
I like there's talk about Lee Gannon, a defender. I think Dublin are probably a little bit short in defence. There's definitely a spot there. Philly McMahon obviously had come on. He was kind of a stalwart of that defence. Johnny Cooper's not there at the minute. There's opportunities for these younger guys. And someone like Lee Gannon, who's played the games to date.
Is he fast? Like, is he speed?
Yeah, you have to have gas.
Yeah.
You have to have gas. But I know
he can kick a point.
Dublin, no matter where you play on the pitch, even if you're in the full back line, and Philly nearly trademarked this, you've got to be able to play ball as well. That is an important thing. Yeah. The way Dublin want to play, move the ball quickly. I think there's definitely going to be a sense. Dublin probably fell into the trap of playing really passively. That second half against Mayo, they would have analysed that game.
Third quarter.
Slow on the ball. There's no doubt about it. I'm expecting to see Dublin are going to try and rectify that and start moving the ball quickly up the pitch. So for guys like that in the defence, you need to be able to play. And not just Dublin. I think the top players in the top teams, you've got to be able to defend. You've got to be able to attack. That's just modern GAA. You see the success Tyrone had last year with it. So I'm definitely interested to see the first 3 or 4 Dublin games now with the O'Byrne Cup final and big games at the start of the National League. And if you're a young guy that gets an opportunity in those games, which you will, there'll be 3 or 4 of them, and you do well, you go down and you're marking David Clifford perhaps in Tralee, and you do well. what's doing well on David Clifford, maybe keep him to 5 play.
Or McNamee did well in them last year and he kicked 8 points, didn't he?
All of a sudden, that puts you right in the mix to be a starter in the championship. That's the opportunity.
Yeah.
And Dublin haven't really been in that space for 5-6 years because the depth of the squad, you kind of knew what guys were going to be playing come summer. So that's an interesting thing for Dublin.
That young Mannion lad isn't bad.
He's had a great club. He's had a great club run, hasn't he? But it was funny, and even lads kind of heckling him at the wedding and things like that.
Were they? Yeah.
Is he coming back and stuff? But he's done brilliant with Crokes, and I think he came out, didn't he? He was obviously injured. He missed the.
Yeah, Robbie Brennan came out and said he didn't miss the back, and Paul came out and said he wasn't going to play again. But he was focused on the club. But he's obviously had surgery, so we don't know if he's going to be back in time for the semi-final.
I don't know. Like his priority now at the minute, and always when it came to the club stuff at this time of year, was to focus on that and try to test with them. So I know Crokes. They'll need him. I think if Crokes are going to win the All Ireland, any club team, he standout play. You could see it in the games.
Pierce is cut above the rest. Crokes going to be a good game.
Dubs would love to have him, but look, I think we kind of poured water on that last week. So it's
Andy, you're spoiling my bloody topics for next week. We're going to have nothing to talk about when you're gone.
I'm missing it already. I'm in.
We need to find someone first. We need Andy, send us on your short list.
Give us Andy. Yeah, exactly. For one very last time, can I shoot a couple of questions from the Football Pod listeners to you?
Rapid fire.
Okay. Did you win the lotto?
No.
Okay.
My syndicate didn't. No.
Devastation.
He
wouldn't be on this bloody podcast with us to be 19 million.
No, Andy Moran keeps his word. He'd have been here if you wanted 19 million and 60 grand.
I'd have been rubbing in your face, Andrew.
Wearing a gold blazer
there. Paul Jones, any truth in who's this? Paddy Andrews talking out for Leitrim this season? You got a call, no?
You have connections in Roscommon, Paddy, do you?
Yeah, the Wright's family are Rossies now. Yeah. I always used to keep an eye out for the Rossies now, but I swear to God, you're laughing, Andy. I'd never looked at Leitrim's fixtures before. And when the fixtures were announced, I went straight online. I didn't even look at the Dubs games. I was like, who are Leitrim? Who's Andy playing in the first couple of games? So I don't know if I'll tag out, but I'll definitely be supporting the lads.
How happy is Andy about Oisin Mullin staying?
Okay, right. This is two-phased. I think every true kind of Mayo fan is the same. We're absolutely delighted that the kid is staying. Like he's a brilliant player. Like if Lee is going to move on in the next couple of years and Oisin was gone, it'd be a huge loss. But there is part of you too that would have absolutely loved to have seen him at least going for a year or 2 years and kind of seen what he could do and where he could be exposed, just out of interest for the kid himself. And everybody knows, like. And I said this before, people say, oh, people are a lovely fella and this guy, but he actually is a real genuine guy. He's cut from a kind of a different cloth. He's just one of these kind of infectious kind of people that's around the dressing room. So you'd love to have seen him going, and what he'd have brought back, even if he went for a year, would have been amazing. But for Mayo football and in general, it's great news. It's great. It's great news for me.
We of course,
from the outside looking in, it would have been a massive blow.
Oh, huge.
I have to say, and we write Mayo off all the time. Every year, it's like, Mayo, it's not going to happen for them now, and they keep coming back and keep coming back. Losing him, he's the lead. Lee Keegan has been the mainstay of that defence. Guys like Keith Higgins, Donny Vaughan, Colin Boyle. He is the leader of that defence going forward for the next decade. He's going to be the cornerstone of that defence, and to lose him, I felt would have ruled Mayo out of it completely. Hands up, I wouldn't have had them in the mix at all in the All-Ireland conversation if they had lost someone like him. The blow of obviously losing someone like Pierce Hanley before him, and we touched on it last season on the pod. What a difference someone like him could have made. We lost Kilkenny. Kieran was gone for 6 weeks. He ended up going for and came back. And look, that was a massive plus for Dublin and for Kieran himself. But how different it might have been if he was gone. There's generational players. That's what the Aussies are after. These guys are the best.
Cream of the crop.
At their age. That's why they appeal to the Australian teams. So for him to do a turnaround and come back is massive for James Horan. I'm delighted for him because I know you're saying, Andy, it would have been great to see him. And of course, you're intrigued to see how do our best young players fare in that environment. But obviously, he's at a conversation. He's happy to stay.
Yes.
And I'm delighted for him that he's come to that conclusion, that he didn't go. And we spoke with Conor McKenna last year.
Yeah.
If you go over there, even if you spend a year, yes, there's positives of the environment and you get to train as a professional, but it can be so difficult. And
look at the amount of guys now coming back.
Tohill and Derry, yeah.
These guys, but it was such an eye-opener for Conor McKenna, as open as he was. It was a struggle. It was hard and mentally being away from family and stuff like that. So for us, Shane, he's obviously decided, this is more important to me. I'm more comfortable doing this. It's massive for Mayo and their supporters and James Horner, but it's brilliant for him. I'm delighted for him because that's a ballsy decision. That's a ballsy decision for a young guy to make, and he's obviously happy with it. And he's like a new signing for.
Oh, he is big time. He's
giving
the whole county lift
as well. So
they're giving the whole county lift. Sounds like it. If you didn't have enough luck earlier that day with the ladder winner.
So
I think people
that might be spread around the country as well.
I think people in Mayo are more happy with Oisin Mullin.
And that's the thing you mentioned there, the linchpin of the defence, but we didn't see it in the All Ireland final because he was back from injury and it was probably I don't know how fit he was, but he is he drove them forward so much in that All Ireland final. He scored a point obviously against Dublin in 2020. He's going to be so important to their attack as well. We corresponded on OTB AM on Monday. Thought it was really interesting. I hadn't thought about this before, and I might just put it out there, but she thought it was such a shrewd move that James Horan named Stephen Cohen as captain, but Tommy Conroy as vice captain, because Conroy and Mullin are such close friends. They played together the whole way up, and she just wondered, was that something that was like, this is your team, and maybe that was something that pulled at Oisin's heartstrings. I don't know. I'm sure Oisin Mullin will come out someday and do an interview. And
Andy, and this is what the situation I find Dublin are nearly in now. The Mayo team, it's evolved. The connection over the last decade of nearly the whole country with the Dublin and Mayo rivalry, never mind their own county supporters, you become engrossed in this team and these players on that team. But that is just sport. That doesn't go on forever. That needs to be re-energized and new faces need to be introduced. And from James Horn to do that, let's give younger guys, it is their team. It is now their team going forward. They are the guys that are going to drive Mayo forward for the next 5 or 6 years. And the same with Dublin, where we touched on it. From my own experience, I remember starting out and it was Bernard Brogan and Paul Flynn and Dermot Connolly. It was their team. And by the end, it was then Fenton's team and Conor O'Callaghan's. That's just the evolution of the team. The sooner a manager and players kind of realise that, it makes that transition and that change smoother and easier. But I think it's a brilliant decision from Horan. Stephen Cohen had a brilliant year last season. For a guy like Tommy Conroy, what an amazing honour. And that just, he had a breakout year, I feel, nearly last year. That just gives him even more confidence. But that's what needs to happen in teams, because teams evolve, and whether we like it or not, life kind of moves on and teams need to refresh. And so it's interesting to see and delighted for those two guys. It's a big honour.
We've loads of comments in. Andy, unfortunately, I'm going to save some of them for next week with Paddy and
his replacement.
Yeah, I can't say anything yet, so we're going to save them, right? But there are one or two more that I want to throw at you. Conor O'Donnell wants to know, are the Leitrim boys allowed a triple spill?
That's a club mate of mine, good crap.
Are we allowed to talk about these?
Yeah, no, they were allowed out for a few pints show at the club. It was like, you're allowed out for one spill, not the double spill, So
is that the Mickey Conroy story?
Yeah, so Conor's on about the triple spill now at this stage. So
okay, that's a different one altogether.
Yeah. No, the answer to that is no, they're not.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Liam Swift, tell the lads we missed the podcast while we're on the road. Liam Swift, goalkeeping coach there. Thanks, Liam. We're back now. We're going to be back every week. Andy mightn't be here every week, but you can always listen back to the first 29 episodes if you ever miss his voice. First 30 episodes. Any difference in playing in the Dome? Ronan Hurricane wants to know.
Lads, unbelievable facility. It's ridiculous. It's in fairness, Connacht Council, it's an amazing facility. Very, very difficult if you're an older player to try to play on that surface and the speed the ball is moving on. Look at some of the score lines.
I watched the Roscommon Galway game. There was a real speed to that game.
Yeah, people ask me, like, they said, would you like to play it? And I said, I'd like to play it when I was 22, not when I was 33. You know, that sort of way. It depends where you're coming from. But no, like we went to, the night we played Sligo, there was a storm, like a storm in Ballyhonus. And it was in Bacon, where the pitches are. And to be able to go inside, have a good quality match, huge pace, huge high-speed meters on the GPS, like, even for a fitness set, it was
I tell you what, Andy, on
What a
the flip
privilege.
side, I'm just thinking from a player's perspective, and you know, I've said many times, being over in McHale Park in February, it's heavy going. Is it nearly though the guys who play? So say Galway and Roscommon have played 3 games in that each. It's nearly a different sport. They're going to play their first National League games the last weekend in January. I'm looking Galway. Galway are playing Meath, probably in where would they play in Salt Hill? There'll be a gale.
Salt Hill, yeah.
Pitch will be heavy. The Rossies are playing Cork over in the Hyde.
Yeah,
like, it's nearly a different sport from as great as it is playing at that speed and the dome to going and playing the last weekend of January on pitches out in Connacht. And they look across Ireland. It's going to be
but Paddy,
game.
Barcrow Park and maybe Porky Queeve, really. Like, you're not going to get another pitch at that speed. So that's it. We were even asked to play a challenge match in Abbottstown in the last couple of days, weeks, you know, and it was just kind of like, that's not going to really suit us when we're playing down in Porkshawn in 4 weeks' time, you know. So it was.
You have to factor that in. Jesus,
you kind of have to think about what you're doing. So what Paddy's saying is it's very true.
Yeah.
But in terms of anyone that knows the Centre of Excellence in Connacht Centre of Excellence,
I'm sure anyone
when it blows now. So it's nice to get indoors when it's there. But in fairness to Prenty and all the guys around it, John Prenty and all the guys around it, however they pulled it off, I'm not sure, but what an amazing.
And Larry McCarthy is talking about trying to get one in every province, which would be amazing.
Yep.
Sorry, Paddy, I cut across you there. Were you saying something?
No, it's just from looking at it on the TV and now for the players, it's an amazing facility. It's class. So hopefully counties or provincial counties are fortunate that we can kind of get a few of them around the country, because look, you're preaching to the choir here. I absolutely despise training and playing games in January, February, you know, horrible conditions for this is the forwards coming out again. We so I'd have played all my games at the Dome if we could. Like.
Yeah.
Evan Cullen has a question that I'm going to save for next week. I've screenshotted it. It's about whether international GA could get a bit more coverage. But he did say, tell the lads that listening to the pod has made being away from home that bit easier. So fair play for getting in touch, Evan. And he's playing GA in Marbella.
Yeah, but Evan is asking about international GA. If the podcast wants to go international, I'm back in. We
might have a Marbella, a pod in Marbella.
I'm back in.
He needs a new draft up a short-term contracts for him there. Newcastle United.
We'll keep it open. There's a last one here, and I think this might suit it to leave it at this. Give him one bit of advice. Cian Hastings here. Any tips on how to improve as a 13-year-old player? Andy, I'll go to you on that one.
I think what people try to do is, from a 13-year-old, is try to make it too complicated in terms of try to improve everything at short period. What can you improve in a short period of time? I remember when I was a kid, I actually got knocked off my bike, right, and it hurt my right leg, so I couldn't use my right leg for ages. So I just was doing keepy uppies with my left foot. Little things like you can always kind of thinking about the game, your mindset in terms of, the boys aren't passing you the ball. You're playing under 15s, maybe the boys aren't passing the ball. How can you get on the ball? Where can you move? Where can you go? And then away from it, me and Paddy said it 1,000 times, unstructured football. Like when you're not at training, just kicking, playing, having fun. Like we were lucky enough to grow up probably in a generation, myself and Paddy, where you were out on the street playing football, soccer with your mates and buddies and stuff like that. That's not so much now, but you can still create that as a 13-year-old. You can still put the jumpers down, you can still play, but that's the way to do it.
I would say, to echo what Andy said there as well, the biggest thing you can do at that age, you don't need to worry about strength and conditioning and all that type of stuff. When you see people starting weights and stuff and in secondary schools and things like that, the technical stuff is the most important thing. And I gave 2 examples on the pod last year.
Dave
I remember
Billings,
I was that age. Dave Billings, great Dublin GA legend, coming up to me, 13, 14, 15 years. Anytime we were playing Vincent's, used to always play Vincent's. We're in Division 1 and we're always back and forth, whether it's in Russell Park or Port Vincent. And he'd come up and go, "What are you doing on your left foot? How are you getting out of that?" In nearly a jovial way, but it was absolutely in no uncertain terms. If you want to get to where you're going, you have potential, but you got to work on both sides. So you should try not to have a weak side, and that's an easy thing to do. And another one, Rory Gallagher guest the pod, when he, again, very fortunate for me, looking back at my career, that he was a coach in my club, St. Bridget's, at a really important development stage for me. I was 15 or 16 years of age, and he used to just bring me for kick and frees. And I was never a free taker, but he's like, "I'm telling, if you improve your accuracy, you'll take frees for our team. You might not do it at Dublin minor, under 21 level or senior level end, but if you are a free taker, a top class free taker, that gets you in teams." You know what I mean? It's a massive string in your bow. And ultimately, I never became a free taker, but it helped improve my accuracy. Just kicking balls with him for hours and hours on end. And at the time, you're not even thinking of it. You don't realize it. But there was 2 coaches who just told me the technical things were the things to focus on. You enjoy doing it. I love doing it, and it made me a better player. It was a massive part of my career and get me to where I got to. So for young players, I think that's a massive thing to focus on, and it's something they'll enjoy doing. It
was Keane that asked the question, wasn't it?
Keane Hastings, yeah.
Rory Gallagher never brought you for penalties by the looks of it, Paddy, after your story about your penalties.
It was only freeze. If only I knew then what I know now.
But what Keane is asking there, Paddy's 100% right, kicking and all this. But I always look at the real top players, like the real, like, did you ever see that Con O'Callaghan catch against Roscommon where Howie doesn't do his cruciate ligament when he comes down?
It's incredible. Yeah. Roscommon, against Roscommon, isn't it?
But all the best lads, like the Gooch, everyone used to be on about the Gooch's right and left foot. But Gooch had the most glorious set of hands you've ever seen, catching the ball on his toes, bringing it up, having it away from his body, looking where he's putting the ball, all that. He just had a really soft pair of hands, hand passing off, hand passing right, Johnny Crowley before him, Mike Frank.
On that, Andy, there's a Lake Regale on Thursday night.
Yes.
On one of the absolute icons for that. Great hand, and Michael Dara, Macaulay.
MDMA.
And that was his greatest strength. His ball handling is maybe not the most technical. He wasn't in the same bracket as Gooch with the ball at his feet, maybe. But his fielding, his hand passing, his bounces. You think you'd have him, you tackle him, and all of a sudden his arms are out of nowhere and he's hand passing the ball to someone else. And they're in on goal, things like that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on Thursday. A great guy. It should be a great story.
Brilliant. But when Keane is looking at it, the likes of Michael Dara, the likes of Gooch, what did they do? Can you hand pass it off your left? I remember Lee McHale saying it to me, like, Joe, just hand pass it off your left, right. So when you're getting the ball in the full forward line, you're flicking it off both sides. It's huge. You still see players at senior level doing the wrong hand pass, going the wrong side. Like, Joe, little things like that. What are you doing? Are you at the gable of your house? Okay, so you don't have your mates to play with. Are you at the gable of your house throwing the ball up? You always see the hurling players flicking the ball, going out to the ball alley, flicking the ball to themselves. The reason they're doing that is hand-eye coordination, catching, kicking. And then another thing is just playing multiple sports. How do you get better at football? Play multiple sports. You're the best player at Gaelic football. You might be one of the worst players playing soccer. You have to deal with different scenarios there when you're playing. Joe, you're the kingpin playing soccer. You have to go in as a bit part player playing soccer. Mentally, that's way different as well. So where do you fit in around playing basketball, soccer, golf, handball, all these things? So just little things like that. And I think some of them Laker Gales are just wow. They're amazing. You know,
it's incredible.
They're amazing. Like, and it's
the depth.
Yeah. Like I told a story. Michael Dara McCauley's story is one of the I think like I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest, even though we'll get mentioned quite a bit for getting flaked. But I'll never forget the first time I ever seen him playing was Hollymount opening a pitch in Stephen Cohen's Hollymount Carramore, the Hollymount pitch in Hollymount, and the bowl, I don't know what to call it. The point, I don't know what to call it, but he came down and we were kind of half looking at this fella thinking, what is this guy? He was doing basketball moves, he was screening, he was spinning, it was all over the place, do you know? 12 months later, 13 months later, 14 months later, he's winning Footballer of the Year. Like it's an incredible story, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. I've seen that he did one. I was like, that'll actually be way different than as I've watched that set. You know
what? That's what I'm looking forward to now from chatting to the lads. That everyone will get to see the kind of, like say, behind the scenes of what he's like and his story, because everyone knows, look, he won 8 All-Irelands, he was Player of the Year, a couple of All-Stars. Everyone knows that story behind him, and he was unique on the pitch, but he's just an amazing guy, and the work he does in the community, the charity side of things, his own background, his own kind of story as well is inspirational, to say the least. So I'm excited to see. I've only seen clips of it, and from chatting to him, he's away traveling at the minute, as of course he is. He's traveling around Asia. He's like Peter Pan. He'll never grow up.
But his touch from McMenamin's goal. Do you know what I'm saying? You're on about it. You're on about a game of inches, Paddy. Do you know?
You don't get a late regale if you're not iconic. So
yeah.
I'm excited to see it, and I hope everyone around the country will see what an amazing guy he is. But for Keane, on that note, just play, enjoy it, practice all the skills, all the sports, and before you know it, nearly unconsciously, you'll be a better player all round, you know. So
there you go. Cian Hastings, how do you improve as a 13-year-old footballer? You got it from the best, Andy Moran and Paddy Andrews. And I'd say that'll apply to, I was taking notes there, I'd say that'll apply to anyone who's trying to get better at football over the next little while. So last one here, Andy, Orla from the Sideline Live. You've kind of answered already. There's 2 parts to this question. So how is Andy finding intercounty management? It's safe to say you're loving it, you're enjoying it.
I'm really enjoying being back in the dressing room. The matches straighten everything out. Like, you know, you can train all you want. You get your first match, you analyze the video, and you go, "Oh, well, that didn't work." That didn't work. So the matches, and then when you get into the real stuff, the league, the championship, then the results will start coming into it. So
you're saying come back to you in 3 months?
Yeah, it's how you view stuff. I like
positive there. Look at him. He's
of course. Like, I'm the wrinkles haven't got any worse yet, but like, you know, like you see March, April time. How, as we said, how Rory, how Colm judge success, what the deemed as success, how the outsiders deem success, and where you kind of take it from there. So at the minute, it's lovely. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck with the first couple of weeks, and thanks very much for coming back on the pod, the football pod, your football pod, the football pod of Paddy and Andy. The second part of that question, and I hadn't thought about it until I read it, and now I'm starting to get worried that he'll ditch me as well. From Orla, will Paddy ever get into management? I don't need to know down the line. I just need to know in the next 12 to 18 months.
Caddying would suit him.
Full-time job.
I'll tell you what, I'll answer that. I'll knock on it. Not right now.
Not right now. Okay.
I think we touched on it. There's a lot of commitment in it. Mm-hmm. You have a responsibility to the players, your coach, whether it's a club team, an underage team, an intercounty team. I'm happy. I'm very busy at the minute.
Yes.
The main thing you need to do, you need to get on to Andy Farrell, Andy Cole, Andy Murray,
Andy Lee, Andy Gorham.
You just Andy Cole. Get me Andy Cole on. Surely have a contact.
Okay, there's another forward. All right. Well, listen, Andy Moran, it's been a privilege. Thank you very much for the last 30 episodes, the 500,000 listens from everybody home. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant over the last.
I hope they don't drop down to about 50,000 now once more.
Well, that's up to us to keep
our
it
ego
going, Paddy.
Take that, Tommy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say now that myself and Paddy are going to have a very, very busy week planning and plotting and trying to get ready for a new era of the football pod that's going to start next Tuesday. So for everyone at home, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, share the pod, and be ready for next week because we're coming back and it's going to be a good one. I'll leave the last word to Andy Moran.
No, just thanks very much, lads. Loved it. Paddy, loved getting to know you over the last 12 months. It's been amazing. And to all the listeners, arrivederci.
We'll all have a keen eye on Leitrim this year, Andy. Thanks a million, man.
See you later, guys.
Cheers. See you next week, folks. Bye-bye.